Doctors are a glimmer of hope for every single one of us. When we get sick, the first thought that crosses our mind is to get ourselves checked by a doctor. This speaks volumes of the faith that we have in them. However, in this profession, incompetence is a word that should never come across. Medicine and surgery are noble professions. Hence, unworthy people do not belong here. Unfortunately, we live in a society in which some doctors do not take their job and their status seriously. The doctor's work is a delicate one. Even a small mistake can lead to someone's death or a lifelong disorder, and we don't know which is worse. There is no room for error when you are dealing with someone's life. This is why proper surgical protocols are predetermined, and they must be followed religiously because these rules are concerned for the welfare of people as well as the doctors. Patients are at the mercy of their doctor, putting their utmost trust in the practitioner, so a patient expects the doctor to be professional. This is what Alex Sims, a Las Vegas mom, expected from her doctor, who was given the responsibility to deliver her baby. Alex was in labor, and she needed to be operated on by a doctor urgently. Unfortunately, her regular gynecologist was on vacation. Since it was an emergency, the obstetrician on call, Dr. Frank DeLee, was assigned to carry out Alex's C-section. As soon as he walked in, everyone felt something was very off. It seemed like Dr. Frank DeLee was acting very strange. Alex's mom, Cherie, said that what came as a shock to them was the fact that Dr. DeLee's mouth was reeking with alcohol. He made it clear that he was enjoying happy hour before attending Alex. This was an extraordinarily unprofessional way for a doctor to act in front of his patient. In an interview, Alex's mother, Cherie, said, "I smelled alcohol. That's what preceded the conversation about him coming from the bar, because I said, oh, he smells like alcohol." It was at that moment when he started mentioning odd things. Cherie took out her phone and filmed the entire conversation, which would be used as proof later on. Dr. DeLee was openly discussing how he had just come from the bar, and how he was called to surgery when he was between the happy hour. He told one of the nurses the bar wasn't very crowded when he had left, and the nurse responded, "I'm sorry, did you waste a drink?" Alex quoted, "It was evident that the staff performing Alex's C-section was unprofessional. Patients usually have nowhere to go, even if they detect something strange like this." The nurse and doctor continued their conversation like it was no big deal to perform a C-section half drunk. Dr. DeLee talked about how his favorite drink was tequila. One of the nurses confirmed that the doctor did leave the bar before Alex's delivery, and was indulged in his happy hour until he was to perform the C-section on Alex. That was not all. Cherie noticed that Dr. DeLee was not only under the influence of alcohol while performing the C-section on her daughter, but he was also barefoot and wore Bermuda shorts. This was highly unprofessional of someone who claims to be a doctor, and disrespects the profession with such indecency. Such an unacceptable attitude from the hospital staff to a person in labor is too much to bear. Stuck in this horrific situation, Alex and her mother were hopeless. They couldn't possibly do anything with the baby on the way, and a drunk, indecent doctor standing there to perform the C-section. Other than that, he misbehaved with Alex on different occasions. Once, when she complained that the anesthesia wasn't working correctly, as she could still feel everything, Alex said, "I kept telling the doctor, I can feel everything. I think the epidural wore off." To which the doctor rudely ignored and made demeaning remarks that made Alex highly uncomfortable and made her think twice whether or not she should continue with the surgery. However, considering her position, she had no other choice since she was running out of time. The doctor was a creep, while the nurses made things even worse. To her complaint regarding the anesthesia, this is how the doctor responded. "Oh, just scoot your fat bottom down. Well, I bet you wish your doctor would have just come back into town," Alex quoted. A woman at the time of delivery is very fragile. She should be dealt with love and care, and not by anything that would make the process for her unbearable. But the doctor was evidently not in his senses. There's a reason why surgical protocols should be followed, because in this field of work, any mishap could lead to significant consequences. Unfortunately, that's what happened with Alex. The doctor, being half drunk, didn't deliver the baby correctly. This influences the child to suffer from ERB's palsy, which is the permanent paralysis of the arm, caused by nerve damage, which occurs when the baby is delivered roughly. With so much damage caused by Dr. DeLee to Alex and her newly born, she filed a lawsuit against the doctor, as well as the nurses who should have known that he was unfit for performing surgery at that time. This isn't the first time Dr. DeLee has been accused of malpractice. He faced a similar case back in 2012, because he was the reason behind another child's sufferings as the kid went through rough vaginal delivery. Alex is hell-bent on getting justice for the inconveniences caused to her and her baby. Not only that, she wants to make sure DeLee is stripped off from his practicing license permanently. People like DeLee are undeserving of a noble title of doctor. They bring shame to this beautiful profession. Doctors are supposed to be lifesavers, and not monsters that people should be afraid of. Alex's traumatic experience has left her with lots of doubts about the capabilities of doctors, and we can't blame her. She has all the right to have her doubts. Best that could be done is to make sure that doctors like DeLee are kept miles away from getting their hands on a patient.